Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Linda Downey, and I'm here with my friend, Christy. And I'll let Christy share a little bit about herself, but we are so happy to have a few moments to chat with you at the end of the week today. It's Friday here where we are. And we try to get together, Christy and I. We both have a passion for wellness. And also, what we do in the world is help people attain, like, up level their health, their physical health, their relationships, their bodies, their spirit, all of the things, because we have a passion for health, right, Christy? I would say. And so if you're just coming across this newly, if you don't know who we are, again, my name is Linda Downey. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, transformational health and spiritual coach. And I've been working in health and wellness for 40 years. And Christy, go ahead. I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll dive in on today's topic.
Yeah, I'm Christy Siriano, and I am so happy to be here with you, Linda, today, and all of you watching. So I am a board-certified functional wellness coach. I have been studying holistic health and healing for close to 20 years now, and I help women reverse autoimmune disease and thyroid dysfunction and hormone imbalances primarily.
Huge. And how many women out there listening, like, can you relate to any or all of those, right? I've had thyroid issues, hormonal issues, all of that. So we really live in a world that can throw our physical health along with our mental and emotional health off track, I believe. And so we wanted to really give you guys, whoever's joining, please say hello. Let us know where you're listening from. But we wanted to give you all some information about how you can support that and even reverse things that are going on that you're not happy with, that you're struggling with, how you can do that from the comfort of your own home, like outside of whatever conventional medicine you are getting, if you are getting that from your doctor. But what can you do on your own? Because I think it's mind-boggling when you actually look and understand what your body's capable of and what you can be doing for free or for just with some intention around how you live your life. You can really get great results. Don't you agree, Christy?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we live in such an incredible world where Linda and I think both of us started out focusing on the physical body and our physical health, but we learned very, very quickly that the spiritual, the energetic, all play a huge role in our physical health. So we certainly spend a lot of time talking about the physical imbalances in the body and what we can do to support our physical body, but it's not just the physical. And, some of the things that I used to think were kind of woo-woo or out there, I have learned are not at all, just because the Tibetan monks and other priests and shamans around the world used these tools doesn't mean that there's not a very sound scientific basis for them. And the world that we live in is all of these things are interconnected, and there is absolutely concrete science behind a lot of the things, all of the things that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. And Christy, that's such a good point, because what happened was, at some point several hundred years ago, in the Western Hemisphere particularly, some learned authorities, men at the time, doctors or whatever, said, we're going to separate it out. Doctors and physicians are going to handle the physical body. If you're upset in your spirit, you go to your priest. And if you have emotional issues, you go to a psychologist. But they're all separate, and you need to go to the specialist. So I think kind of right off the bat is where I'd like to point out, the specialist on you is you. The authority about you is you. And yeah, it's great to get information and guidance from people who have done in-depth education on certain areas, but really understanding, I can really look inward and know what feels right for me, what is making sense to me, how am I improving? I can really do that. I don't need to go find some authority. So number one. And number two, when the Western culture separated those out, it did a real disservice, because it's been a long time that people have thought they're not intertwined, and they are. So you can be doing a ton of things with your doctor, like things to address your physical body. and not doing the other two and feeling really frustrated. Why isn't it working? I made myself really wrong. Like, what's wrong with me that I'm doing everything that I know to do? This was in the course of my own journey, both in my physical health and in my relationships. In my marriages, I had two. And why couldn't I make all of that work when I was so committed to wanting that and doing a lot of efforting on that? So that's what we wanted to point out. So what's the first thing, Christy? Because we were sort of chatting before we started, before we hit live, we were chatting about, okay, what are all the things we want to share with everybody? And I feel like I got a lot right here. So what do you want to start with?
Yes. And just to echo what you were just saying, Linda, I always tell my clients that you are the expert in you. And I think we tend to kind of cede our power and authority over to some expert in a white coat and think that the pills that they give us are the only solution. And so we wanted to give you guys some totally free, mostly, I think, totally free things that you can do from the comfort of your own home to really, really powerfully support your health and wellness. So the first thing that we had talked about was the power of sound and sound healing. And again, this is one of those things that I probably, I don't know, 20 years ago might have thought, oh, well, that's a little out there. But
Yes.
the reality is that it is not. And there's very concrete evidence, concrete scientific research to show this. I just posted on my Facebook maybe a month ago some research that was done showing that playing Beethoven's Fifth Symphony stopped the growth of breast cancer cells.
Yes.
And slowed it, stopped the ability to spread and slowed the growth. I believe it was slowed the growth by 20% compared to the control group, which did not have Beethoven's Symphony. So I thought that was amazing and fascinating. And I don't know if that's what prompted this conversation or not, that Linda suggested this topic. But there's so much evidence for sound in our lives being so powerful.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I want to stack on that, but I just want to say hi to Daniel, because Daniel French just said hello from Kansas City, which is kind of near. Is that kind of near you? Not really.
I'm not too far. I grew up in Kansas, though. So
oh, okay. Okay.
Very familiar with Kansas City.
Yeah. So thanks, Daniel, for saying hello, and anybody else. And later on, if you watch the replay, please, we'd love to see, where you're listening from. And certainly if you have any comments, and we may not see them. This is playing in multiple places. So I happened to click and saw Daniel's hello. We may not see everyone's in the moment, but we will later when we go back and check. But yeah, the sound I definitely was on the woo-woo train with that one, like years ago, like, okay, here we go. And here's what I want to share with you, and from a scientific point of view about that. The technology now is so advanced, and our understanding through quantum physics about how we are energetic beings, and energetic beings meaning we are mostly made up of energy, which is moving at a certain speed. That's the frequency. So we are mostly made up of energy, much more than we are physical matter. And that the frequency of what's happening in our body can be altered by the frequency of sound. So sound is a certain spectrum of energy. Light is another spectrum of energy. And both light and sound greatly affect the frequencies of energy that are actually existing in our body. So each cell of the body, each organ system of the body, the tissues have their own frequencies that they're supposed to be vibrating at. So the energy, as it moves through, like the heart tissue, or as it moves through, pick any system of the body, there's a frequency that is appropriate for that system to work well. And when the frequency gets disrupted in some way for various reasons, then that tissue and that organ is not going to work as well. And why does the frequency get disrupted? It gets disrupted, back to the very beginning of our conversation, it gets disrupted oftentimes by what we're thinking and feeling, because thoughts have a certain frequency. Emotions have their own frequency. So if you're having thoughts and feelings that are making you angry, you're feeling anger, you're having thoughts that are feeding that anger. That's changing the frequency of how energy is moving throughout your body, which is changing how at the cellular level your body can function, which is changing how the different systems of the body work. So in addition to the study that Christy shared about a month ago, I also recently, I don't know if any of you watching know who Dr. Zach Bush is, B-U-S-H. If not, I highly recommend you go check him out. He is a doctor, an MD. He was working at the University of Virginia. He used to do oncology research for years in the University of Virginia, where he was they were studying different cancer cells and different ways through chemo that they could manage cancer. And what he saw, and he's a very spiritual person, I love listening to him. What he saw, what occurred to him is, I'm studying and developing ways to kill the body. How about we learn and study ways to enhance the body rather than, people who've dealt with cancer, if you've had chemo, it just kills everything. Like, let's hope we kill the cancer cells, and oh yeah, we might wipe out plenty of other things too that you wish weren't wiped out. So he stopped doing that cancer research and he started to look at how to enhance the body. And he's one of the biggest promoters of the microbiome in your gut, but also the dirt and the soil and the quality of our dirt and soil. But anyway, I saw him, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about at a cellular level, we know, and you've known this since high school, I'm sure, we're made primarily of water. 70% of the actual solid mass in our cells is water. So separate from the energy, the solid part. And water, if you've never heard this before, water will actually change at a molecular level. It will change its structure based on how you talk to it. Boom, mind-boggling, right? Dr. Emoto from Japan, you can look at the hidden messages in water. There's a whole book on that with pictures where he gathered different containers of water from the exact same source. Here's a scoop of water. And then he spoke to one container lovingly, and he spoke to the other container disparagingly. There is a frequency in your words. Just like there's a frequency in your thoughts and a frequency in your emotions, there's a frequency in your words. When he spoke words of love, the molecules in the water looked like beautiful snowflakes, symmetrical. You know, when you get like a snowflake, Christy, on your window, like it's snowing and then you're like, wow, that is so amazing. It looks perfect, symmetrical. No one is they're all different, unique from each other. So that's what he saw. And then in the other container, he saw, as he said, I hate you, you're an idiot, all of the things. The water turned brown, the molecules got disfigured and lost their shape, right? Their beauty and their shape. You're made up of 70% water. This conversation I saw with Dr. Zach Bush said that when we have held depleting emotions, when we've had trauma in our lives that we have not healed from, emotional trauma, difficult experiences, loss, sadness, weren't nurtured when we were young, that the frequency at the cellular level has changed, and the water part at the cellular level has changed from how it was originally designed to be in the pure divine design of it. By using sound therapy, I know I've been talking for a while, haven't I? Sorry, but I think it's so amazing, and you have to understand why and what's going on in the background. But when they used sound therapy, the water molecules and the crystallizations at the cellular level, which is in each of our cells, started to change in response to the frequency of the sound they played. And when they played it the right frequencies long enough, just like Christy said, they saw a response in breast cancer cells, the water in the regular cells, wasn't even cancer cells, remembered its original shape and form, remembered how it was supposed to be, and returned back to health. So that is what happened in that piece of scientific information that Dr. Zach Bush shared. That's what Christy shares. And what we want you to know is that sound. And the Suffragio monks in the 9th century knew that. They identified different frequencies for different things and used their gongs to help people heal long before Western civilization said, oh, no, keep it separate. So there, you go.
Yeah, I love all of that. That is so beautiful. And you guys can see why Linda is so good at what she does, because she's such a wealth of knowledge. And it's just so, I love, it's so beautiful the way that you can explain these things so well. One of the things that I think is fascinating about the water in our bodies is that it's not actually in liquid form. It's actually in a gel or a crystalline structure. And so it's sort of not, it's not, obviously it's not ice in our bodies, but it's sort of the same idea as the snowflakes that you mentioned, or freezing the water into ice crystals where you can see the crystalline structure. The water becomes in our bodies is a more of like a gel or a more solid structure with a very distinctive pattern where you can see a beautiful snowflake or a disorganized, chaotic pattern, depending on what has happened in a person's life and what is happening in their thoughts and the music that has been being played around them. And you guys have probably seen, like Linda was talking about Ito's experiments with water. You've probably seen some of the experiments. If you just Google on YouTube, you'll find videos of people speaking positive, affirming words to plants and critical, negative, unkind words to a plant. And the plants that are spoken to kindly thrive, and the plants that are spoken to with harsh, critical words don't. They wither and wilt and die. And that is because of the water inside of them and what that those verbal sounds and the frequency that they hold are doing to the structure of the water inside of those plants. Yeah. So I think it's absolutely fascinating. And if we understood the power of the music that we listen to, the words that we speak to each other, the words that we speak to ourselves that we're hearing in our own minds all day, every day, we would do things very, very differently if we really understood.
Yeah. And I want to give you some just real, hi, Amelia. Amelia says hi from Wales. Hi, Amelia. Thank you for saying hi. Some specific, we'll wrap up with the sound and give you a couple more, but if you're interested, Google Suffragio. I think I'm spelling this right. S as in Sam, O, F as in Frank, REGGIO, Suffragio frequencies. I hope I did that right. And you'll see there's 9 of them, I believe, and each frequency is linked to, specific things, physical pain in your body, changing negative thoughts, love. So if you have particular issues, go ahead and Google that, and you can see what the different frequencies are if you want to work on a particular issue in your body. And you can hear them on YouTube or whatever. Beethoven and a lot of the classical music was so perfectly composed as to be healing for our bodies, but you can find the specific ones. And I think it's best if you listen to them with headphones so that you're getting that binaurally in both sides of your, of the brain coming in. So, yeah. Okay. What else, Christy?
All right. So totally free, obviously, is the sounds, the music that you're listening to, the words that you're speaking to yourself or the people around you. Another thing that we had talked about was sunlight. And again, this is something that is free, is available to all of us most days of the year. And we, I think, really, really underestimate the impact that full spectrum sunlight hitting our eyes, hitting our skin has on our health. It is healing in so many ways. And instead of taking advantage of that healing tool, we slather sunscreen on and are afraid of the sun because we've been told that it causes cancer, when maybe sunburns are not optimal. But getting out and getting sunlight on your skin and on your eyes is so important. And just one way that letting the sun hit your eyes makes a huge difference in your body is setting your circadian rhythm.
Mm,
When the sun hits our eyes first thing in the morning, that signals our bodies to make cortisol, which helps us be awake and active and do all the things that we want to accomplish for the day. And it helps our bodies, signals our bodies to make serotonin, which we all know is one of the feel good neurotransmitters that we need throughout the day to have the mental and emotional resilience that we want to have. Um, Serotonin is a precursor to melatonin. If we don't get the sunlight in the mornings, so we're not making optimal amounts of serotonin, then we're not going to have the melatonin that we need at night to help us get good quality, restful, restorative sleep, to have the antioxidant function of the melatonin, to have, you may not know that melatonin also plays a really big role in making ATP, which a
mm,
lot of happens at night while you're sleeping. So if you don't have optimal melatonin, you're not making as much ATP, which we know from high school biology is our energy source for
right.
our cells. So that's just one really small way that getting out in the sun and letting the sun hit your eyes regulates so many different bodily processes. That sets um, there's something in your brain called the SCN, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, that essentially is your biological clock that sets all of the clocks for all of your different hormones, for sex hormones, for adrenal hormones, for hunger and satiety hormones, that tell us when it's time to eat and when we've had enough to eat.
Mm,
When we are not getting sun, adequate sun at the right times of day, especially in the morning, all of those biological clocks are off, and it leads to metabolic chaos in our
yeah,
bodies, hormonal chaos in our bodies.
yep. The melatonin, if you don't get that morning sun, and again, like Christy said, you don't go and get a sunburn, but if you're up at 7 o'clock in the morning, even if you just sit by the window and sip your coffee and allow morning sun to come on your skin and your eyes, that's good. Or in the warm weather, stand outside, sit on your deck for 15 minutes. You're not getting a sunburn. But when you do that in the morning, the brain knows 16 hours later, up with melatonin, because it's going to be time to sleep. Because we are designed, think about it, before we had modern technology, we lived by the sun. When the sun came up, we got up. When the sun went down, it was dark, right? Human beings didn't like have lights to turn on. So 16 hours later, the brain says, okay, it's now time for sleep. If you didn't have that, then the brain you'll get that second wind. And a lot of people will say, I get a second wind at night and then I don't sleep well. Well, that's why. Start your sleep pattern in the morning. That's just one example. But light is information. Light and food are information to the body. We use them as, food for a million different things, comfort, socialization, all kinds of stuff, but it's information. It's either good information or it's not good information. Same thing with light. You're telling your body what to do next, when to do it by how you manage your light and your food.
Mhm. Absolutely. And conversely, we don't want the blue and green spectrum of light shining in our eyes after the sun has gone down. And the sun going down is our the cue to our body that, okay, it's time for cortisol to come down and for melatonin to rise. And when we then turn on the lights in our house and or we're sitting in front of our computer or our phones or our iPads or whatever it is, and we have that blue and green spectrum light shining in our eyes, and that is telling our bodies it's time to be awake. Oh, I think it's daytime and it's time to pump out the cortisol and suppress the melatonin so that you can be awake. And so it gets very, very hard to get that restful, restorative sleep that we need. Um, each color of the light spectrum, and the sun is the only thing that gives us the full spectrum, has a particular healing frequency in the body. And you may have heard of a red light device or an infrared sauna, and those are incredibly healing frequencies. Red light and infrared light specifically can penetrate the body clear to the cellular level and support cellular healing, support mitochondrial function, support production of ATP and energy, support healing, support reducing inflammation in so many ways. So if you have access to a red light device or an infrared light device, or a place that you can go sit in a infrared sauna, that is wonderful. But just getting out in the sunlight and letting the full spectrum hit your skin is free and also incredibly healing.
Yeah. Yeah. If you start to put all these pieces, like if you listen to this and really go, okay, I'm going to take on my life and my health, and you start to like implement all of these, I'd say in a number of weeks, 2 weeks, a month, you're going to be like, oh my God, I feel so much better just from these things. The next one I want to say is hugging. And here's why I want to say it. Because when we hug each other or yourself, if you don't have someone you can hug, you can wrap yourself in a hug, produces oxytocin. Oxytocin is the main other side of the seesaw from cortisol. So oxytocin is going to lower cortisol levels. Just by producing that in your body, you're going to bring cortisol down. Cortisol is the main hormone from stress. So, our society is very geared to dopamine. We want dopamine hits. We want to feel better by, what are the ways I can feel better, right? I can get a dopamine by, if you're on online dating and you get a like, or just on social media and somebody likes your stuff, it's a little dopamine hit, right? You get a dopamine hit from all kinds of things. It's the way that you kind of keep going. And our society is really geared towards, getting dopamine wherever we can. I want to offer to you that oxytocin would actually even be better, because oxytocin will balance out your cortisol. And oxytocin is the hormone when you fall in love. You're flooded with oxytocin. When you deliver a baby and you're bonding, you're flooded with oxytocin. You feel so good, and your nervous system gets regulated by producing oxytocin. And the easiest way to do that is hugs. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it's like 9 hugs a day. There's like 5 hugs a day would be sort of like keep you at baseline. 7 hugs a day or 9 hugs a day would actually would start to elevate your health. And then the 9 would be really bringing down cortisol levels. So, or barking helps too. But anyway, oxytocin, at least 20-second hugs. Shoot for 5 to 9 a day. So if you're living in a household where you kind of like high five each other as you pass in the night, nobody's really hugging. I don't know about you, but I lived in a very stoic household. That's how it was. And, people go to hug and you feel a little stiff and awkward. I just want you to look at, where's my nervous system? What's home base for me with stress and tension and other kinds of upset, anger, resentment, all the things. Because if you can start to just allow yourself to hug your pets, if you have a pet, hug yourself, hug people in your life, and start to notice what turns around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And as you mentioned, the nervous system benefit to that, of soothing and calming your nervous system and bringing it out of fight or flight, freeze or fawn, those stress and trauma responses, back down into a healthy, relaxed state where we can learn, where we can grow, where we can be creative, where we can show compassion and empathy, right? So many of us in this world live in these heightened nervous system states where we don't have access to any of those things. And we see this play out on social media, in our political system, all over. We're seeing people who do not have access to compassion and empathy and reason and rational thought, because they're living in this elevated nervous system state. So I love that you mentioned this, the self hug. If you just do this for 20 seconds, a few times a day, you will bring your nervous system back down.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. So our goal was to give you freebie things that you could do. So we've talked about so far sound, light, hugging to regulate your nervous system. There's a couple of, I mean, Christy and I, we could talk till tomorrow morning. But if we wanted to just, give a couple of more things and make it be effective, what would it be, Christy?
Grounding was one of the other things that we had talked about. The energetic frequency of the earth helps to, again, bring our nervous system back down, resettle our energetic frequency. And all you need to do is take off your shoes and your socks, go outside, put your feet on the ground. The bare grass is ideal, but anywhere you have access to, just put your feet, your bare feet on the bare ground and breathe, breathe.
Which
And
is another good one, breathing, but yeah.
yes, yes.
And just to stack on that, what Christy said for grounding, our microbiome and the bacteria that live, we are way more bacteria than we are most other cells, right? And our microbiome and the skin biome are made up of bacteria. In the days when kids played outside in bare feet, it just doesn't happen in the same way. Or people were, walking around more barefoot. Not only were you connected with the earth and that ionic pole, which changes the polarity in your body from the stresses of computers and cell phones and microwave ovens and radios, but also the stressors from emotions and emotional and negative thoughts. But also being out there is going to help recolonize, your body and your microbiome that we have sanitized with all of these antibacterial things that we slather all over our hands and everything else that we do. And we're wiping away the antibiotics that we use to wipe away the internal bacteria. So that's another benefit that's going to support your health, because you're going to start to create better bacterial colonies if you're not going outside barefoot in places that have been sprayed with pesticides and glyphosate and all that. That is the caveat to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So if you all just adopted some of these 4 things that we have shared with you, maybe you try to implement one a week for the next 4 weeks, or maybe you just bring them all on board and start practicing all of these in different ways. It is life and health changing. Okay.
Yeah.
You do not have to spend a fortune. You do not have to go to the doctor and take pills necessarily. I'm not saying don't do that if it's appropriate for you, but there are so many other ways that you can support your body coming back into balance and health and vitality. And that's really what we wanted to share today.
Yeah. So both of us love to connect with you. If Christy, if somebody wanted to connect with you specifically, how could they do that?
You can find me on Facebook. I'm Christy Pruto Siriano, or Christy Siriano Functional Wellness Coaching. You are welcome to reach out to me there, or you can find me at my website, which is christysiriano.com.
Yeah, great. Same thing for me, Linda Downey, Linda Downey Coaching, Linda at lindadowneycoaching.com is my email. Linda Downey Coaching is my website, or, on Facebook, just under my name. So we look forward to seeing you maybe again next week. We do our best to try to come here on Fridays when the rest of our life allows it, and talk about things. So if you've tried any of those things, even if you try it in the next week or two, come back and share with us. Hey, I did this and I noticed. And remember, these are natural ways. We're used to, in this culture, immediate fixes. Give me a pill. I want to feel better in 20 minutes. So this is not that. This is intentionally changing how you live your life to support true health, rather than masking symptoms and making you feel artificially better because you don't feel the pain in the moment because, the pill shut down certain responses in your body or whatever. So give it that time, but we would love to hear. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, great. Have a wonderful weekend, Christy.
All right. Thanks so much. You too, Linda. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.